Hello students. In this lecture I'll be giving a brief tutorial on how to use Google Scholar to find research articles. Now keep in mind that I'm not a technology expert, but I do use Google Scholar very frequently in my work. In order for you to complete your assignments and projects in this course and in others, you will need to access research articles related to your topic. From my experience, many students have difficulty narrowing their search or using appropriate search terms when they're looking for good research. And one of the most common roadblocks that I see for finding articles is using search terms that are just too broad. On the other hand, sometimes we get too specific and close doors to great research. During this lecture, I'm going to show you one way to search for articles using Google Scholar. This is my personal favorite and what I always go to initially when looking for articles on a particular topic. So the first thing that you need to do is open your web browser. I'll be using Firefox, but you'll be able to do this on any browser. Next, type the URL. You can see that I have this saved, so I'm just going to click my link here, but here is the URL, scholar.google.com. One great thing about Google Scholar is that you can use it anywhere. You don't need to log on to MyCharleston as you might with other databases. Although there is a benefit to logging in, and I'll show you that later in the presentation. So now that you have Google Scholar pulled up in your browser, you need to determine the best search terms to use. As I mentioned before, that can be somewhat of a challenge. Let's use an example. How about reading interventions? Now, let's take a look at my results when I use reading interventions as my only search term. You can see that our results are varied. Here's one thing that I could point out. When you see book like this in brackets at the beginning, that just means that it's a book that had been written on a certain topic and not a research article. Here's one article on the effectiveness of reading interventions, and it looks like they're looking more at the type of analysis that the researcher would do. Here's a synthesis of reading interventions, looking at comprehension for older struggling readers. We have a comparison here for literacy skills for at-risk preschoolers, so our ages are varying and our areas of reading are varying. And that could go on and on. In order for us to find research that's meaningful to us and useful in our work, we need to narrow our search a bit with a few more search terms specific to our project. We can consider specific areas of reading, grade levels, disability status, and the list goes on. For this example, let's say we're interested in learning more about reading interventions for young readers, for example, kindergarten. Now, let's think about an area of reading that would be important for kindergarteners. There are many to choose from, including things like letter knowledge, phonemic awareness, vocabulary knowledge, etc. For our example, let's choose vocabulary. So we've narrowed our search by adding grade level and a more specific area of reading. Our search terms are now more specific: vocabulary, intervention, and kindergarten. So I'm going to type this in my search box. You can use commas if you like. Notice that I've removed the term reading. I'm not exactly sure whether it would keep change our results in any way, but typically when discussing kindergarten vocabulary interventions, reading would be assumed here. So I'm going to hit search. Okay, you can see that our search results this time around are much more specific to our topic. So let's look at some of these. We have, vocabulary intervention for kindergarten students, comparing extended instruction to embedded instruction and incidental exposure. Here we have the authors of this particular article, the journal, Learning Disability Quarterly, and 2007. If we wanted, we could click on it, and that would take us to additional information. So this one actually has one of the pages that we can view. We can read the abstract here that gives us some extra information. Now let's go back to our search list. So our second article here deals with English language and English only learners, kind of a comparison there, I assume, for vocabulary development in kindergarten. This particular one was published in 2007 in the Elementary School Journal. The third one here, the effects of vocabulary intervention on young children's word learning. This particular one is a meta-analysis, which just means that the author gathered multiple research articles on this topic and kind of analyzed them as a group to be able to come up with an overall effect. Interesting here, we have PDF from sbnewman.com. So if we look, that's actually one of the authors, Susan Newman. If we click this link here, it will actually give us a PDF of the article. So sometimes authors actually have the ability and permission to post full text articles. Some universities, you'll notice, will have the same link. And I'm just scrolling through this so you can see we have the full article here. I'm going to go back now to our list, and you can see that here's another one that has a PDF. So these are PDFs that are available to anyone that uses Google Scholar. As you read through these, you can see that all of them somehow relate to vocabulary and kindergarten or early reading. Here's one that I'm particularly interested in. My dissertation was on vocabulary interventions during shared storybook readings, and I actually cited this. This was written in 2004, and you see that we can't tell what journal this came from. So easily we can click on this link and it will give us that information. Exceptionality, a special education journal. Now you'll notice that all of these, they provide the abstract, but if I attempt to download this full text, it's going to want me to log in and purchase either the journal or the article itself. Because we have databases here at the College of Charleston and we have subscribed to a lot of these journals, we can actually log in to our My Charleston account, and I'll show you that in 1 minute. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our list here. Down here you can see we have multiple pages for this list. The most relevant to our particular search terms will show up first. And we can actually see up here that Google Scholar has found 38,800 results for us. So I could even narrow this down further. I mentioned that I am interested in storybook reading. So if I scroll back up here, I could type in storybook and possibly get more specific articles related to that topic. So let me click enter, and you can see it bumped up this article that I was interested in and clicked on a minute ago towards the top of the list, and then we have additional articles. Okay, learning new words from storybooks. You can see that there is some overlap. I remember seeing this one on the previous search, and that's good to know. One thing that I really enjoy about Google Scholar is the ability to find other articles based on one of your results. So, for example, if I take this article by Coyne, McCoach, and Kapp, and I look underneath it, you can see that there are links for cited by, and this is going to be basically articles that have cited this article in their own research article. And this particular one has been cited by 103 other articles, other researchers. The second link, related articles, is great because if we feel like this article gets at what we really want to learn more about, clicking related articles will do just that. It'll give us articles that are very similar. So let's try these. So I want to know who has cited this particular article. If I click that, it then uses that as a search term, the idea that other people have cited this, and it uses the citation to search within articles. So it's been cited in Successful Phonological Awareness Instruction for Preschool Children, Lessons from the Classroom. And we can go throughout, and you can see that this list has all the elements that the other list had. We still have some direct links to PDFs and so forth. Okay, if I go back, now let's click on related articles, and I bet that we'll see some of the ones that were there previously. So yes, so we can see that some of those articles in a previous link are the same. So this is just going to give us articles that are related to the topic of this article. Another great link here is this cite. If we click on cite, it's going to give us the citations for this particular article in MLA, APA, and Chicago. So I can click on all of them, and basically all I have to do is copy this, and I can paste it right into my document on my reference list. And remember, for education, we use APA format. So in our previous search, you can remember that we did not have access to the full text document on several of those what seemed to be really good references that we would want to use. Another way to do this, to get access to some of those, is to log in using My Charleston. And when you open this page, mine looks a little bit different probably because I'm a faculty member, but if you click your library tab, which everyone should have one of those, and you come down here to find articles, we're under article databases, and I'm going to click G for Google. So I scroll down here, here's Google Scholar Online. You'll notice that there are some ways to customize this in order to give you access off campus. Typically on campus, this should happen automatically for you, what I'm getting ready to show you. So if I add in my search terms here, you will notice that I get the same exact list that I did previously. The only difference is that I have this link here that says Find It at CFC. That allows me to access the full text of documents that I may not have had access to before. So I like this article, Loftus, Coyne, McCoach, etc., and I'm going to click on Find at CFC so that I can have access to the full text. I have two options here for full text. I'm going to use the Psychology and Behavioral Sciences collection. And when this comes up, you'll notice it looks similar to other search engines that you've used, that your professors may have shown you. Over here though, I have the option to click on full text, and it will give me the PDF full text version of this document as it appears in the journal itself. So you'll see I have all of it here. I can even download it to my computer here or print. So I hope that this has been helpful for you, and as always, feel free to ask questions on the discussion board or come visit me in my office.